And I'm Samantha Ertenberg, and this is my partner, Patti, Florida State College of Jacksonville. And before we get going, we're going to just briefly introduce ourselves, then we'll jump right into it. So after you, Patti.
Hi, I'm Patti McConnell. I'm the Associate Director for the Emerging Center for International Education at Florida State College. We are just getting started, but we are going big with a three-pronged approach, and I'm happy to be here with you today. One question I know Sam's asked in the past is how I got interested in international education. 25 years with a major airline in the flight crew, so 40 countries, able to see a lot of different places, cultures, and I want to share that experience with our students.
And like I said, I'm Dr. Sam Ertenberg, and I teach English. And I fell in love with study abroad and all things international when my mom sent me on a people-to-people trip when I was in 9th grade. And for the first time, all that stuff from the textbook, all those people and places you read about, were real. And I loved that experience. I loved having the world come together and feeling part of it. So from there, I got a master's in international studies. My PhD is curriculum and instruction. So that's how it weaves together. Somehow people had me teach English. So I got a master's in English after I started teaching English. You know, one of those strange stories. But that international aspect has always been close to my heart and something that I'm very excited to work with now that I'm at Florida State College at Jacksonville. So here's what we're going to do today, our objectives. Learn about the development of a comprehensive three-prong approach. We're going to tell you it in a little bit of a story-like way. Tell you our story of how it's unfolded at FSCJ. We're going to stop and tell you major do's and don'ts that we've learned. Things that you might consider as you start a program or as in along the process of developing it. Tell you kind of our top 5 takeaways. So if you remember nothing else, here's your top 5. And then we're going to turn it over to you. You see that you've all got little sticky notes. And at the very end of the presentation, or as we're talking, we want you to write down any questions you have. Things that pop into your mind that you're going, but what about this? Or what happens if I'm a smaller college? Or also, do you have a recommendation? Is there something that you're like, oh, as we go along, here's the most important thing we found out. The most important thing is this organization that you can connect to, like Worldview, which you'll hear more about in a moment. So again, any questions or any recommendations, and at the end, we're going to have you stick them around, and then we'll try to answer them or see if you have any advice on them as well.
And before we get started, could we kind of have a show of hands? How many have centers already underway? How many are here to learn more about how to create a center? So the first, creating a center. Sorry. The creating a center. Okay. Already have centers underway. Perfect.
Anyone perfectly skilled? Everything's running smoothly? Perfectly? No one? Okay. So to get us started, we are FSCJ. And I want to emphasize to you that this is our story and each college is different. And that's part of the frustration. Sometimes you go and you're like, yeah, but I can't do that at my college for this reason. Or, oh, but what about this aspect? We're going to tell you some advice to help you, but consider it for your location and your college. So, just so you know, here's Florida. We're actually up here. A lot of people just say that we're South Georgia, you know, because we're pretty much close to that area. By our numbers, we are large. 42,000 to 52,000 in enrollment. And that number is largely because we had an enrollment fiasco, which I'll tell you briefly about. 59% female, 46% white, 26% black. But guys, I actually hate seeing that statistic because that's not what I deal with on a daily basis. We have multiple campuses, and the majority of my students are African American. So think about that with your location. Is the school statistics looking one way, but maybe the population that you deal with because of your campus, because of your satellite location, because maybe you're dealing with high schoolers, is different than the school's typical numbers, and how can you tailor to that group? 78% part-time. A lot of you guys have that as well. But an interesting thing about our college is we've got a very strong EAP program, English for Academic Purposes. So if you're thinking about what resources do you have, it might be a student population that's already there that you might be able to tap into so that they can share the international aspect with fellow students. that they might present about their country to help globalize the campus. They think they're students, but maybe they can also be teachers as well and get an even stronger educational experience out of it. And we also have College International Education Week. Again, thinking about the programs you can tap into as you try to globalize your campus. Employees by the numbers. 2,410 employees, 382 full-time faculty members, 669 part-time faculty members. Folks, we've got a lot of people that want an opinion. And that's been one of our challenges, a very strong faculty senate. So even if we have something going, you've got someone going, did you run that by faculty senate? Did they get input? Did they discuss it for 5 hours? We've got to deal with that, so knowing that was one of our, not challenge, but one of those things we had to incorporate in our plan. And we've got 7 sites and locations. So also the logistics of how do you pull people together physically when we want to talk about this. Do we need to communicate with them online, by email? What's the best method? And again, think about your college. If you're a small college with 2,000 people, it's going to be a little bit different and hopefully a little bit easier than when you've got this mass group of people to deal with. So again, we are FSCJ, and I encourage you as we start on our story, who are you? What are your strengths? What are your challenges? All right. But before that, here's the most important thing I feel in life. It is not just study abroad. That has been a challenge with our faculty, with anyone that hears about anything international. They think it's about sending students abroad, and yes, that can be a key component. But even in my last session, they were talking about how study abroad, you lose that excited faculty member and it all falls apart. If you do this 3-prong approach where you try to bring co-curricular activities, you bring a Global Scholars of Distinction program, and you have study abroad, you're setting a solid base so that it's not just those one-off opportunities when students go abroad. And if you look at the statistics, less than 10% of undergraduate students study abroad. And for community colleges, that's less than 1%. So even if you think about it, why are you spending so much time and energy if you're just hitting less than 1%? When maybe you can tap into other things to make it an even bigger impact on students. And as you all know, they're not going abroad because of home responsibilities. A lot of my students have kids. They've got a full-time job, so it's hard to leave. And lower socioeconomic bracket. They don't have the finances to leave. So again, don't just think study abroad as you're developing what you're doing at your school, because the other things hold up the program so that you can do study abroad. So our story begins way long ago. I came to FSCJ in 2012, and I heard nothing about study abroad, nothing about international, nothing about global. There was no talk. There was no information on it. And the very first time I heard about it was when it's flipping up weird. One more, let's see if that happens. I was on a professional development committee, and there was one faculty member that was like, I care about this. I want to have study abroad and other international opportunities. And so she started working on it as part of her role in professional development. We had so many meetings where we sat there looking at all the courses we offered, seeing what was a globalized course, what we could make into a globalized course. We sat there forever talking about could we do study abroad and who would do it. But the problem was we were just faculty members. It couldn't go anywhere because at our college, you need that administration support. And that's where we had an administrator who was called the easy button. She was there to make anything we wanted to do easier. If you had a project you wanted in your class, she'd make it easier. But study abroad and globalizing the campus wasn't her job. So again, she didn't have the authority. She didn't have the connections. She didn't have the ability to push any of this forward. Her mantra was, make it ready so that when they say yes, we can kick the door down and go in. But that doesn't work if the higher-ups at the college aren't ready for it. And another huge challenge, we had a weird climate at this time.
You might have heard about us in the news. We misdid Pell Grants and owed millions of dollars to the government. We were changing one president, partly for that reason, and bringing in another president in the interims and all the changes, and no one wanted to do something new, like globalizing the campus. And the other thing is, you might have heard about us in the news, we had huge enrollment issues because we switched to a new system. Has anyone done that? A new enrollment system that the students can't get registered, and so they don't enroll and your enrollment plummets. That's why that first statistic about 49,000 to 59,000 students is there, because it depended on the year. So when you've got this change in administration, you've got students not being able to register, how are you supposed to implement study abroad? So you've got to make sure that you're in a conducive environment for it, which is one of our cautionary things. You can always get things ready, but you've got to make sure that they're ready to be implemented, and it's in a time when people will care. And that's another one of our lessons. It is not just faculty saying, I want to do this. And it's not just a staff member saying, hey, I'll assist you. But it's also linking with the administration who supports it and is behind it. You've got to make sure you've got representation and support from all those levels. So the more I was working on this, I started hearing rumors. Rumors that we did have study abroad. But at one point, that study abroad, the professor took the money, and that money didn't necessarily stay where it was supposed to stay, or that there was misbehavior along the way. And I'm like, but why didn't we know about any of this? We also heard good rumors that there was this connection to University of North Florida, which is a college in our area, that we teamed up. We took students abroad, and it was fabulous. Someone broke their foot, but it was fabulous. But why didn't we know about any of this? Why didn't we have any of this recorded? That relates to our next thing. You've got to have a system of accountability. Even if something doesn't go right, you can figure out what to change. By the fact that we gave that professor cash and things went wrong, we can learn a system of how not to do that, which I don't know why they did that in the first place, right? But you've got to create that system of accountability and kind of documenting what is going on. And that's when finally, dun dun dun, we got one person at our college who was a key administrator who had the power and authority, and it was her job to figure out globalizing the campus. And what a difference that made. It went from having a little group here and a little group here and wanting to do it, that she was going to be judged based on if she could create globalized programs at the campus. The other thing is a key administrator that connected to curriculum. She knew risk management in the department and who we needed to talk to. She knew about PR. She knew how to connect to general counsel. So she was someone that knew who needed to have a say in this, because if you leave out one of those groups, they're going to go, why didn't you talk to us? We want to make sure we give our opinion, because that's the culture of our school. And she knew how to connect to each of them. So you might need to find that one person that's able to connect and make them listen, because she does have the authority at the school. So that leads us to our next lesson again. There's many stakeholders you don't think about. I wouldn't have thought about risk management. I would have put a system in place and something went wrong, in case something went wrong, but I wouldn't have thought of reaching out to the PR people. So again, get all those stakeholders involved so that they feel they're part of it, and you're creating that documentation you need. And have someone who has the connections or is willing to make the connections to all the big people at the school, to all the low people at the school, to everyone at the school, so that they all have that say. The other key thing this administrator did was she made a plan, then she presented. I think a lot of times we go around and we go, it's a great idea, who wants to get on board, we'll flesh it out, come along with me. And people were tired of hearing that happen and nothing following through. So she made a plan. She spent that summer and that fall researching what needed to happen to have a successful globalized campus. And she went to the administration and she said, I need stipends. Here's my very specific plan, the three-prong approach we're going to talk about, and I want stipends for 2 professors each to work on each of these prongs. And because she had done all the research,
because she presented it in this very formal way, she was able to get those stipends to move forward. And here's our 3 prongs. Study abroad, study USA. Again, that's the obvious one. And that's what all the professors thought they were going to be working on. Co-curricular activities. That's establishing a center, an actual physical location on campus where students can go. That's where hopefully we'll tie in our international students so they can do programming. It's tying into different community organizations that they might come give lectures. Advertising different events that go on around Jacksonville so that students can reach out into the community. So almost being the hub that even if you can't go abroad, you can still find little connections all over the community. And then the one I worked on was the Global Scholars of Distinction program. And that's what I'm going to briefly talk about to show you how those stipends and how that process worked. They did give us this whole list of what we were supposed to do, and it had to adapt because faculty member versus administration, we had 2 different views as it unfolded. So my first task, though, was really to do some research on what a Global Scholars of Distinction program is. And what it essentially is turns into this. For our college, they have to take 15 hours of globally focused coursework. And a lot of you guys have heard this, so I just want to emphasize, we did this reviewing our courses, deciding what's inherently global, world history, there's the global bend no matter what, versus courses that professors can do, such as our intro English class. Can you put an international spin on that? And then developing a process so that professors could submit. And again, not just halfway doing it, but making the process pretty much finalized so that we could present it as that final plan. We did participate in at least 8 global activities on campus. We picked this number because we've got a lot of stuff that goes on. And this breaks down to about 2 activities each semester, if they're there for 4 semesters, which we know they're not always there for 4 semesters. But we thought that was very doable for our students. Complete at least 30 hours of global experiences, and it can either be on or off campus. Again, since we're in Jacksonville, there's a lot of things going on in the community, so that's why we made the number both on or off campus. And then we wanted our students to complete a capstone. Capstones are important because it's a way for them to do that final reflection and really put all of those experiences together. And as a result, they're going to be able to have a note either on their transcript or their diploma. We're still figuring that out. You got to bob and weave a little bit. But some people do it that they get a certificate. Some people put a note on the transcript. Some people put a note on the diploma. And this way they have those marketable skills. We had to put research into this, though. We had to convince people it was worthy. So find statistics like the National Association of College Employers surveyed employers about what were the top skills they were looking for in new hires, and half of those skills were enhanced through global experience and training. So by doing this, our students can say that they've got better communication skills, teamwork skills, problem-solving skills, and interpersonal skills. We did research on what all the colleges in Florida were doing and figured out what was best for our college and our resources. I was lucky enough to go to Chapel Hill and University of North Carolina with Worldview that offers a week-long program on all kinds of amazing global things. You learn so much, including how to implement this at your college if you're interested in doing it. And then again, we kept adapting because at one point the administration, as part of our requirement, was that we were going to go, if you're a professor in here, you might find this amazing, and change all of the course outlines to include that they were globalized. Every single course outline at the school to be globalized, like from sign language to English. And that's where at one point I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't do that. You can't change all the courses to make them globalized, but we can make it so that we have this track and professors can create their course to fit with this. So again, emphasizing you got to kind of bob and weave and figure out what administration might say, whereas the faculty might say something a little bit differently. One thing to emphasize. Yes.
Do we ask questions as we go or at the end?
Well, you can ask questions at the end, or if you have something now, I can ask you.
I do have something. How do you sell the Global Scholars Program to students? Because we had a hard time selling our international certificate, which had a lot less strict requirements. It was only academic requirements, but no like participation.
Can I
things
ask
like
you, were you doing a co-curricular program aspect as well?
that. No.
That is part of why we're doing this three-pronged approach. You're absolutely right. Why would I do this Global Scholars of Distinction program? What is it? Why would I do it? If you've got a center, and students are hearing about this center, and they're hearing about these different events coming up, and you've got this center that's creating the marketing so that they know they're all connected to this global endeavor, then it makes it a better package deal. And it's part of a whole system at the college. If they know that the courses are globalized, if they're study abroad, it creates that connection so that it has value to them. And also you've got to tell them the employability aspect of it. You've got to show why it's beneficial, that they can tell their people that they're applying for at the job. Explain how you highlight it on your resume. Explain how you highlight it when you apply for the job. And then again, it's not just something extra. It's something already going on that they can easily tap into, and then it helps them get a job. Does that answer?
Our colleagues at UNC maybe could help here too as well.
Yeah, so, and I don't want to dominate the session, but the North Carolina Scholars of Global Distinction program in the state of North Carolina, the community colleges partner with UNC Chapel Hill. So once they complete the program, in addition to their degrees, they also get a certificate from UNC Chapel Hill. So that's a
That
big
would be an
draw.
incentive.
Right.
And yeah, we can talk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll make sure you get a moment at the end to promote. So moving real quickly then, guys, if you do this approach though, team formation is key. I personally don't think it was the best approach to have 2 professors on each of these endeavors, because the professors didn't know what they really were, even though they had the materials to read. Everyone thought they were doing study abroad. And so then I didn't want to do study abroad. I wanted to do Global Scholars of Distinction. And I had a partner who I adore, but kept talking about study abroad. Or she kept talking about, well, why can't we go in the community and do this? And I'm like, that's not what we're working on. So having it that people clearly know what's going on, and maybe one lead on each of those endeavors that is passionate about it, and then 2 other people maybe helping out depending on the size of your school. The other thing is you've got to figure out how you communicate with each other. I prefer email. My partner preferred 10-minute voicemails that I couldn't make it through. People, I hit delete before I got to the end. I'm going to admit it. So you've got to have people that can work together. We've got so many campuses. We couldn't meet face-to-face without it being an issue. So again, think about your campus, your college, and how team formation might be best done. And the other thing is, use your resources. I can't tell you that we started this from scratch and it's all our own. There's other places out there, specifically we connected to University of North Florida. Our study abroad material is theirs because they're in the same area. They've got the same rules and requirements. So look at the university in your area. Maybe team up on your first study abroad if you need. Maybe ask if you can have their documents, revise them a little bit, and put your logo on them. And then again, huge shout out, University of North Carolina Worldview. They have everything you need for creating a Global Scholars of Distinction. They have a website where you can go and find every single class from like art to, can't remember the other one that I put, art, abnormal psychology, all the way to acting, that are models of those courses that have been adapted to be globalized. They have all those resources online. So again, if you're interested in the Global Scholars of Distinction program, I cannot emphasize enough how much going to Worldview, University of North Carolina, find all of their resources. And again, there's a week-long institute during the summer that's absolutely fantastic. They let this Floridian in, even though they were all North Carolina people, and you learn so much and you get excited about all of it again. So find your resources, then make the plan and present. So after we have these teams together,
That's where we created one unified program to present these 3 prongs to students, to faculty, to administrators, to people in the area. And again, you had the presentation, and then you had people there in order to explain even more. So make the plan and present, because the bottom line is you've got to get them excited. Just like you were saying, how do you get students to want to do it? You make it this whole thing. Study abroad, classes, cultural events on campus, so that faculty are excited, students are excited, and you've got the administration excited about what's going on at your college. So that's kind of where I've kind of stepped back a little bit, because Patty then came into play. 3 weeks in, I go, hey, you want to present at a conference? And she'd only been in her role for 3 weeks, and she's like, okay. So she's going to tell you where we've taken it from there.
Terrific. Thank you, Sam. So for us right now, it is evolving. So we are an emerging center for international education. Next week while I'm here and at the conference, we're going to be sending out our request for faculty to globalize their class. So we're thinking about, you'll see our program narrative is floating around, and I'll reference that in a minute here. So we have an application for faculty to fill out to globalize their course. We have student applications. We have step-by-step processes, but we know it won't be perfect. We will have missed things. We'll have not thought about everything. So we are currently in the process of continuing to gather information. In the month of March, we're going to have an all call to our faculty for study abroad trips. Again, we're trying to make sure that we are presenting in the right time, giving them plenty of time to plan. We're asking for 9 to 12 months before they plan to go abroad, to allow ourselves plenty of time. The program narrative, do we have one of those floating around out there maybe that I can hold up? I think there were 3 out there. Yeah, that's this. Okay, sorry to step back. So I'm going to float these around. The person that Sam referred to is my boss, the Associate Provost of Curriculum and Instruction at Florida State College at Jacksonville. She wanted a program narrative that was more than a proposal. She wanted proof of concept. 125 pages. It was edited 6 times. I think a lesson learned here is it took a lot more time than we thought. So the faculty development team submitted their work for us, but then we had to put it in tangible terms for internal stakeholders to review. We have everything from, as I said, study abroad student applications, global scholar applications. We also have this that I'll float around, which is how we're going to organize and support the center. Send this all around, and I'm happy to send this to you electronically in the form of a PDF. We are willing to share the information because so many around the college community have helped us, from UNC to our colleagues at the University of North Florida. The retired director of the Center for International Education donated hundreds of hours of time to get us off the ground, to make sure that we were asking the right questions. We were going to general counsel, we were going to risk management, we were in the audiences of those that we really needed to be. And then we were presenting. So we had this beautiful program narrative, and we felt prepared and ready to go out and talk to stakeholders. So we sent an email. We sent it via constant contact so we could look at the open rate of the email. We could see the click-through rate of the email. In that email, we included a survey. We tried to keep it short and succinct, but we routed the survey based on how you identified your position at the college. We got into student groups as well. In our presentations, I'll get to that in a minute here. But in this email, we had our provost send it on our behalf. I think that truly helped. It included an electronic copy of our program narrative. It had the survey. And then we also had a PowerPoint presentation that we were doing personally. But if the stakeholder couldn't get to one of these presentations, pre-recorded audio so they could hear the message as well. Presentations, we tried to think outside the box here. So we went to the places you can imagine, right? The College Leadership Council with our college president, Faculty Senate. We also went into our schools, Bachelor's Career Technical Education, Liberal Arts and Sciences. But we went to our Student Government Association. We gathered all of those students that were leaders at our institution. We went to our International Club, talked to the students there as well. So we tried to think of individuals that would help make our programming more robust. We also created a Canvas shell with all of this information. So for the faculty member that might feel more comfortable navigating to our Canvas shell, we included that as well. We had to be flexible when we created these information sessions. So the original college leadership council was canceled by the college president. It was at a critical time when we were really looking for their feedback and support. So what we did was we scheduled individual meetings with them, and they had the program narrative electronically, and we spent time just interviewing them and asking them if they had any feedback. So our colleagues in general counsel, our colleagues in finance, we really gathered some important information here to continue to improve the programming. So I mentioned a minute ago, we next month will be sending an all-call to our faculty for study abroad. We already have faculty calling us. They're sending us information where they're asking for additional information, so we can see the excitement, we can see the buzz is happening. But in addition to study abroad, one thing that came out of the faculty development team was maybe we could also look at staying a little closer to home. Maybe we could provide programming while we stay within the United States. So we're exploring that option as well. Sam mentioned our co-curricular international learning opportunities as something the center is going to oversee. So we're working with various partners here. Our Library and Learning Commons, who is also under the Associate Provost supervision. They have tea and tongue twisters with foreign language. Here's our international club, asking our students to remain involved with us, be mentors, be ambassadors for the programming. And a worldly night. We're looking forward to working with our Center for Cultures, Languages and Societies at FSCJ. When we're planning a trip to Bogota, we're going to have an evening where students are coming in, they're ordering from a restaurant, we can get a little language immersion there. So we have a lot of support in the community, but like Sam said, it was making those connections. That was very, very important. In our profile, we talked about our technology toolkit. We've just purchased 50 of these virtual reality goggles that we are going to be able to loan out to faculty for their classes, so students can go see the bull run in Spain. So we're very excited about that opportunity. We're also purchased 2 GoPros, so to speak, with all the technology, so when the students are going abroad, we heard from our marketing team to make our website more dynamic, we need those videos. Our program narrative has the photo and video release form to make sure the students are aware we may be asking that. Yeah.
So the actual videos and stuff for the VR, are they something that you buy? I mean,
free downloads, and you're able to, the one caveat is the student needs a smartphone, but hopefully we're going to have instructors that have it, staff that would be able to go and help, so we're able to use it with that technology.
Just to piggyback on that point, Google Expeditions, I don't know if
Exactly,
it's
yes.
a great resource for all of us.
Perfect, yes, that they are our main opportunity to get a lot of these different videos. Thank you for that.
And one more thing, as you hear about innovative ideas and all of that, I heard about one professor that they were further along with all this, but they created the videos themselves when they were traveling abroad, and then they used it as part of their class. So when they were doing the lesson on that particular museum or that particular area, they created the video, they took the technology with them, and they made those key things so that when they came back, the students used this, and the professor kind of narrated and talked them through it about what they were looking at. So again, when you get further along, the professors start weaving this in because they're making their globalized course as part of the Global Scholars of Distinction program. You can have innovative ideas bringing the world to the students.
Absolutely. And again, these technology ideas came out of our faculty development team, but the folks that helped me research it were my LLC folks. They already had virtual reality goggles, very high end. These were about $35 a piece. They had them as well, felt like the quality was equally good. We were thinking about buying a GoPro, and they let us quickly know this $80 model. They have podcasts that they're doing with students in our Library and Learning Commons, works equally well. counseled us that put in the hands of students, you know, it might get dropped, it might fall into water, so maybe that investment would be better elsewhere. And then in our center, we'll have a smart TV where we can show these different videos to our students. So again, some technology we're looking for here. I would say the key from when I entered 7 months ago, my background at the college, I've been there 10 years, was in student services, so really had the lens of the student in a lot of things that I was looking at. But the internal stakeholders, I can't tell you how supportive, from the University of North Florida to our partners in the LLC, everybody had a little bit of advice to add, and it was all warmly received. Really helped us guide the next steps.
So that's kind of been our process, from where I was involved with it to where Patty's been involved with it. So we want to give you kind of our top takeaways before then we start looking at different questions that you have. And I'm going to give you a moment to promote Worldview, because again, they made a difference so much in that prong about the Global Scholars of Distinction. Number one, as I said at the beginning, it is more than study abroad. If you just do study abroad, or you're just doing the Global Scholars of Distinction program, I think it takes that one person passionate, and if they're gone, it all falls apart. So this approach sets that solid foundation so that professors are excited, involved, they want to do the study abroad, or they want to do these co-curricular activities. It's essential to create a whole program as opposed to just one little avenue that you're pursuing. You need the institutional support and relationship building. Again, it can't just be one person, this small group of people. It's got to be something that's been accepted by the community because the community knows about it. Even if they didn't design the entire thing, they feel invested because they were asked, and they were asked their opinion. And also they know about it, so they might be able to share more resources with you. Plan, then present. I can't emphasize enough how much trouble it was when people kept going, here we're going, here's our exciting thing, don't you want to be part of it? But they didn't have it completely fleshed out. And so no one thought it was ever going to happen. I don't know how many professors, when we were first developing this three-prong approach and developing the teams, one professor goes, we've heard this enough. You keep talking about this, I'm out. It's never going to happen. So again, by creating it so that we could get the stipends and create the team, so that we could create those teams and create those plans to make our program narrative, that made an impact on how it was received. It's not just content, it's about the presentation of it. You need to bob and weave, people. Things don't go as planned. You can't present to a team meeting because a hurricane comes through. In Florida, that happens, everyone, okay? The administration thinks that we need to embed it in all the curriculum outlines, and you're like, whoa, 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 we need to go this different approach. You'll find what might need to work best for your particular college, because again, we're FSCJ. You've got your own differences going on. And again, tap into those resources and the experiences of the people around you. There's this sheet going around. If you put your email, we are happy to email you a copy of this program narrative, because we essentially took stuff from University of North Florida. We took stuff from Worldview, and it gives it legitimacy if you say the reason we're doing this is because it's been successful here. So before we get into our questions, do you want to take a brief moment and say anything else about Worldview, since again, critical in my life?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Worldview is a public service program at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, situated in the Provost office, that was created 21 years ago to serve the state of North Carolina, specifically community colleges and K-12 schools around sharing the university's global resources. So we do quite a few professional development throughout the year, including taking educators abroad. We work with 26 community colleges to work with them on the North Carolina Global Distinction Program. The requirements are relatively the same as Samantha explained, but the difference, as I mentioned earlier, is that these colleges actually get, the students who graduate from the colleges actually get a certificate from UNC Chapel Hill. So we are strictly outward facing, and that's because global is a huge priority for our chancellor as well as public service. So what Samantha mentioned earlier was the Global Education Leaders Program that she participated in. So that's a week-long institute where educators, predominantly from North Carolina, but occasionally we do get folks from the outside, like Samantha, and we welcome them in, and we bring our faculty from who specializes in various regions of the world to come in and share their expertise with educators. The Global Education Leaders Program this year is actually going to be abroad in Ireland. So we're focusing on
last year?
community college, specifically presidents and superintendents, and taking them abroad. So I am giving a presentation later on today at 4 p.m. I'm going to share a lot more about worldview and what it is that we do. So feel free to check out our website, or I have some business cards as well. Thank you.
So the last part of our presentation then, because we know you do have questions or you're like, oh, I'm an expert on this and I want to share this. With those sticky notes, I'm getting to my last slide. We want you guys, if you would on the sticky notes, to either write a lingering question. Like you have a question you want to ask, and again, Patty and I might not have the answer, but we've got like close to 50 people in this packed room. We feel like superstars. There might be somebody in the room that has the answer. And it can be a particular aspect. What happens if you only have 1,000 people at your school, right? Our school is big. Or is there a do or don't that you would tell everybody based on the process that you've done? So on your sticky note, again, you can write a question and put the question, or you can do the do or don't. And we were going to have people move around and stick them around, but if you just hold it up, Patty will grab them, I'll grab them, and then we'll work on answering. Might be here another couple hours. That's okay, everybody. You want to start? Yeah. Well, you can keep writing, and I'll ask the questions. And again, if you have something to add, feel free to add. So our first question, are there specific courses required for the 15 hours of global coursework? My answer for you is not for our program. They'll have the whole list, and our curriculum department's been great that there'll be a little G designated by the courses that have been considered globalized. So students will be able to look and search for globalized courses. We are not requiring them to have so many of each one. And they asked about a language requirement. Some places do a language requirement, and I'll tell you, I very much advocated not to do a language requirement with our program. Because they're so limited on how many courses they can take anyhow. I didn't want them to be restricted. And then also at our college specifically, we do not offer that many languages. So maybe at a college where there's a whole bunch they can take, at ours it's really Spanish, and then there's limited French. So it might not be their interest because of what we have to offer. And again, I really wanted to try to make it flexible in what they could take depending on whatever program they went to. Whatever course is considered globalized, they take it, it counts towards that 15 hours. Yes?
Just a quick follow-up to that. The course that has the designation, so like ENC 1101 gets designated, it's every section?
So to clarify on that, so some like world history, that is inherently global, like there's going to be global in it. But if I'm teaching ENC 1101, what I can do is we've created an application, and it's in the program book that you'll see, so that I say for my particular section this fall,
I'm going to do this, and you've got to have X% of it globalized or some activities, and then it will be when students search, they can look at all the NC 1101s and see which are with the G.
And we have a committee as part of that structure that I showed earlier that's going to review the faculty's application. We also have a process that we are going to send to our registrar's office when the students completed all the requirements, signing off that we verify that they've been completed. So,
and that kind of connects to the next question, and I know you had a question, but it said, how are you going to track all the completion, all the requirements? That's part of having the center and having that focal point at the center and someone working there at the center that will be keeping track of this. And Patty, if you want to say more to
that'll be me. So
yeah.
We are planning to have students, we'll have electronic passports, but we'll also be tracking. My background in student services I think will come in handy here, where I'll be able to look at, transcripts, be able to see what students have taken. It might be a little trickier, right, when we're asking them to go to events and activities, so we are working to have a sign-in sheet where we could get their information from that they've attended. So there definitely will be a tracking process to make sure when they have the notation on their transcript that they have completed the requirements.
And one of the hopes is to work with the tech people so that we create a passport for them so that they're keeping track of it in their passport. They have reflections in the passport. But I feel that's the next step. Once we've got it going on, then we can convince the tech people to spend their time wisely.
So, I don't know if I was just dreaming or if you said that you want to get 100% of the courses at the college.
No. I said that's what the administration at first thought, that we were going to change all of them. And I said, as a professor, faculty is not going to do that.
Right.
And the process to do that, like we fight over the smallest things at my college. So they thought we needed to change the curriculum outlines. And I said, that's not the way to do it. If a professor wants to opt in, they need to be able to opt in. Yeah, it's you.
Very wise.
Let me emphasize, not changing those curriculum outlines. How do you continue to get administration to buy in? Patty can talk to this, but my first response is, you got to make it easy for them, right? If you show that this is beneficial to the students, your administration should want to do it, right? If you tie in, and most of us can tie in somehow to our values or something like that. So if you have that plan in place, I think that was the key difference. I'll slow down. I do this in class too. Administration wasn't buying in because it was like a half-baked plan the whole way. So administration finally bought in when that key administration looked at the research and created that plan and said, here's what we want to do. Can we have the stipends? Then administration said yes. And then we took our time, almost behind closed doors, asking people but working on this, and then created the plan. So all they had to do was go, hey, you got it done. Keep running with it.
Yeah, having that key administrator or associate provost in those meetings of senior academic leadership, the college leadership, she was able to continue the conversations. I would probably say the two places that we had the most resistance, for lack of a better word, was our finance department due to the previous,
rumors and fiascos.
Yes. They were reluctant. They were reluctant to manage the money. So we had to look for an alternate way to schedule these classes. So we are doing what is a self-supporting course with our workforce program. So the course is going to be developed independently. The finances will work in a slightly different way, a little more secured for the institution and for finance. So we believe we've checked that box there. But we did have some early on that weren't supportive because they remembered the history. That program narrative has come in very, very helpful. When questions are asked, we can say, turn to page 76. We believe we've addressed your concerns here. Those individual meetings with those stakeholders also helped, where they were able to tell us specifically where their concerns still were residing.
And with that program narrative, I'll admit at one point, I was almost done with all of this. Because I told you about how when I came and that professor was trying to get stuff done, I sat through all these conversations. And then, no offense to our person that came to bring it all together, I sat with her and she said, we want to start creating this. And I said, I didn't say it this way, but I said, I sat through all these meetings. We have documents from all this stuff. And she had none of those documents. And so it wasn't until you start really recording and creating that system of accountability that you can move forward and adapt and create something and not just spin in circles.
And Sam, I'll pause here too. So one member of the faculty development team was a member from the LLC. She created a SharePoint site for us. She wrestled all of this great work that the faculty was doing. We had it housed in one place. One thing I would say, lesson learned for me, we underestimated the amount of work that that program narrative would take. Hundreds and hundreds of hours. Looking back, we would hire a professional editor. Our marketing department has one. The scheduling wasn't working. I think we really underestimated the work that came from the faculty. Was wonderful and great, but it had to be put into applications. It had to be put into infographics. It had to look nice. So that would be my one caution there.
Question about how many students complete the Global Scholars Program each year. We haven't started it yet, so we have none, and it might depend on your college as well. Do you have any numbers about how many students participate in the Global Scholars of Distinction program?
Yeah, throughout North Carolina, it's easily a few hundred. We give out anywhere from 75 to 100 certificates to all the community colleges in the state of North Carolina.
And an important thing to note is I've looked it up at some other colleges, and they maybe have 5 a year, or they might have 20 a year. But the thing is, don't underestimate that even if not everyone's participating in that, the benefits of having those opportunities, because I think some students are restricted based on how long they're there, their programs and stuff, but there might be a way that we've even talked about that they can do, like, participate in it, but if they can't get all the requirements, they can still get like a certificate versus something on their diploma. So is there a way, if we have a student that's not with us very long and is going to University of North Florida, or someone that's in another certificate program or adult ed, is there something we can do modified for them so that they can be recording and tracking even if they don't get it on their diploma? Yes.
So just a quick comment on that. We call it a global endorsement. We've had that, but we're a small school, we're about 4,000. So we have about 100 students in the pipeline, and there's about 15 that actually complete the Capstone per year. But we feel the same way you do. At least they're getting some. Different students are different places along the line. Yeah. And that's one of our challenges, is we want to encourage more of the students that begin the program to try and finish that. So, because it is great.
And we're going to note it on the transcript that the course had a global theme to it. They may not get the certificate at the end, at the bottom, but it would be something they could talk to employers about, that I've had these various classes that had global themes. And one last thing, and I'm going to take that question. So we're hoping this three-pronged approach has something for every student, right? Co-curricular might be less of a time commitment. Global scholars might require a little more planning. Study abroad, study USA. We're hoping that we have a flavor for everyone, so to speak, when they come and visit us. Yes?
I was just going to ask if you had considered offering financial incentive to completers of the program. I don't know if you've seen the University of, I think it's South Florida, their model, but they got some foundation money, and so like their people that complete their program like get $3,000 towards their study abroad program. So it enhances the people that are interested in the certificate, and then it gets you students for your
And that's a great idea, and it's something that we talk about, like moving further, even financial incentives to help professors globalize their curriculum type thing. Right. So if you can get the money, look for the different avenues to bring in money, because you're right, it gets more people to participate.
We appreciate that very much. We find every time we talk to a group of people, we learn something. So I'll definitely take that back. We are pursuing a $750 scholarship internally at the institution for study abroad, study USA, but to your point, there might be some opportunities for us there to provide some incentives, work with our foundation. We haven't tapped into that resource quite yet, trying to see what other opportunities we have for funding. Thank you. You think it's the University of
South Florida.
South Florida.
And speaking of study abroad, here's one of your warnings. Warning, warning, warning. Here's advice from a fellow person. When you do study abroad, focus on what fits the student body need and not faculty need. And I think that's excellent advice. I think it's always like, oh, I'm this professor and I want to teach this class. I've got someone that is always trying to offer a Shakespeare class, and she never gets enough students to fill it. But she's like, but I love it. It's so beneficial for the students. She can't get it filled. So as you do study abroad, what location, what pricing, what subjects will best meet what your students need versus what the professor just wants to teach or where they want to go. And that's what I always hated in these discussions with professors, like, this is a great way for me to go abroad. that's not your primary reason. It's a great way for the students to see the world, to really feel connected to the world. And another do and don't, it's helpful to connect internationalization of education with any of these programs with real life skills and the employability. And that's one thing that I briefly mentioned with the Global Scholars of Distinction. Part of our way of getting the administration buy-in was that aspect of saying this research says these 4 skills, there's 8 that employers want, these 4 all are global education related, and it gets those very logical minded people going, all right, if you can sell it, good plan. What about welcoming students from abroad? I think
I'm going to take this one.
Go for it.
Yes, so we plan to have our physical center located with our international student services. We think it'll create great synergy. We're planning a mentoring program. Students that, let's say, are from Bogota and we're planning a trip to Bogota. You know, we can make connections with those students. So absolutely, we see the connection. When we visited our international club, I should have explained sort of the demographic of that group. It's all of our international students at FSCJ. Have about 125 students. They were very excited about it. So definitely making that connection, I think, is going to help.
And like I said, tapping into our English for Academic Purposes program, using the students so that they feel empowered by their language. Since I teach English, I have so many of this foreign students go, I'm not very good at English. I'm so sorry, doctor. I'm like, you already proficiently speak one language and you're doing amazing with another language, so feel empowered. So I think by tapping into the students that are abroad to do the co-curricular programming, it makes them feel empowered, makes them feel not that they can't speak English, but a way to practice the English and feel that their own language is valued as well. If you had only 20% reassignment time for global education coordination, what should you do with that 20% reassignment time? Do you want to start with that?
You go.
Folks, my suggestion, then we'll open it up. I think it's creating that plan of what you want to do, as opposed to you trying to implement that study abroad or implement this or implement this. Decide what's best for the college and create that formalized plan, because then you might be able to get more reassignment time, or you might be able to recruit faculty and staff to form a committee to work on that plan. So I can't emphasize enough, make the plan, then present. Don't go with the easy avenues. Don't say, oh, this person wants to do this, I'm going to help them with that. What's going to be good to make a sustainable, investable program 5 years from now? And again, what's best for the students? Maybe it's not starting with study abroad. Maybe it's that co-curricular programming going on first. Did anyone else want to add in on that? 20% reassignment time? You're lucky to get reassignment time. All right. Do you use any assessment tools for students in the Global Scholars Program? Like we said earlier, personal opinion, I hate assessment a lot of times. I think we have my student read a book and then you test them on the book so they hate reading. You have them do the Global Scholars Program, you assess them, and they hate having done that. I think the only thing is to have it tracked so that they feel empowered by how much they've done, and a self-reflection. And that's what we're hoping to do when we do the passport. It's not to say, did you learn these skills? How's your communication now? How's your teamwork now? It's to have it so that they think back and go, man, I did learn teamwork skills. So you might have individual questions pertaining to those job skills, but personally I don't think we should assess people to death. And it's a lot of stuff you can't assess. Them opening their minds, them feeling empowered. You can't really assess the impact on some of those most important things that come out of these programs. Yes?
Just to kind of, again, piggyback on that, we were pleasantly surprised at what the students produce when they do their capstones. We had an outline of different questions that they might want to address, and they come to it, and they all want to go more than the 45 minutes they're really allotted, because they're excited. And that really proves the value of having something like that, because the student tells you what your college has done to help expand their world, and that's what we want. So yeah, if you get a chance to do that, what we do is we rotate faculty members and staff members in the capstone, so they get to hear from the students how valuable and important it is.
Well, and that relates to some questions here about it. Is it a class? Is it a project? How do you get away with credit limits and stuff like that?
Right now, our plan is not to make it an actual class so much as a capstone project. We already have kind of a student research conference that goes on, and our thought is to put it within that they present, kind of connecting everything together. You could possibly make it an actual class, but I would worry about the credits on that. You might weave it into honors, I could see it done. But for us, I think if they're really passionate about it and doing that presentation, it's not about having a semester-long class, it's having that reflection and that share out so that the community sees what's going on. So right now, we're thinking of it as a project/presentation that they share and giving them some requirements, like a 15-minute long presentation, connecting everything together. Yes?
I just got a notification that said if I raise my hand. Do you know anything about this?
I got it too.
You got it too. We get a $50 gift card. Yeah. And some other prizes.
Hey man, I turned my phone off to be respectful.
Thank you. I don't have any of that.
Here's the prize, Sam.
I honestly have absolutely no idea unless there's some secret shopper in the room that's going to give us all like Oprah winning prizes.
First to attend it.
You're going to give us the prizes?
No, but I have a question. So for your global program, do they get like a medallion or any kind of stole for graduation?
That's what we're working on too.
That's what we have. We give them a medallion.
We feel confident in the medallion, and we're continuing to work that conversation, but yes, we feel confident that'll
I know
happen.
the stole is a little bit difficult because obviously there's certain ones with certain,
Exactly.
programs that are already set. You have to work through that whole process, but medallions are usually easier to implement.
That's been our experience. Thank you.
And
Yes.
that's where you've got to know your college. As weird as it is, people get upset over like even a simple medallion at graduation because we have student recognition ceremonies. They wanted to give them a medallion to wear at graduation, and they're like, "You can't for this reason." You've got to watch out for the administration talk sometimes that goes on and work around it as opposed to shutting down with it. I love my administration though. Who are stakeholders? Did you include the larger community? So our stakeholders definition, we didn't list them for you. We've talked about them. Students, primary, right? As that one note said, it's about what's best for them. Faculty, as well as administration. Specifically at the school, you've got to think about risk management. You've got to think about PR, because if anything goes wrong, also the PR people want involved. You've got to have
General counsel, finance,
counsel.
student services. We presented to probably over 1,500 various stakeholders in various venues. So we tried to leave no stone unturned